Portugal's N2 is often called the country's Route 66. Stretching more than 700 kilometres from Chaves in the north to Faro in the Algarve, it attracts riders from around the world who want to experience Portugal from end to end. I've ridden it before, but I've never experienced a trip quite like this one. Road closures, wildfire diversions, a crash, a broken footpeg, and a series of unexpected detours all threatened to derail the journey. The question was simple: could we finish? To position ourselves for the start of the route, we travelled to Chaves the day before. Chaves is a historic town known for its Roman heritage, medieval castle, and impressive bridge across the river Lamego. The following morning, it was finally time to begin the N2. Like many riders before us, we stopped for the obligatory photographs before setting off south. More than 700 kilometres lay ahead. At that point, we had no idea how challenging the journey would become. As we headed south through the Douro Region, terraced vineyards stretched across the hillsides in every direction. After crossing the Douro River at Régua, we paused to enjoy one of the route's viewpoints. South of the river, the vineyards continued to dominate the landscape. Our first major stop was the sanctuary of Nossa Senhora dos Remédios in Lamego. The sanctuary is famous for its monumental staircase, which climbs the hillside in a series of elegant terraces and ornate landings. We stopped at the bottom for photos, but with temperatures already climbing, neither of us fancied tackling the steps on foot. Instead, we rode up to the sanctuary itself and enjoyed the views from the top, before continuing south. Not everything was going smoothly. Near Penacova, we encountered our first road closure. The N2 was blocked, forcing us onto a short detour along the opposite side of the river, until we could find the next bridge and rejoin the route further south. At the time, it seemed like a minor inconvenience. In hindsight, it was merely the first warning of what was to come. This stretch quickly became one of our favourites, with a steady succession of bends. Some roundabouts featured displays celebrating local history, industry, and culture. One of our planned stops was the Cabril Dam. Completed in 1954, it remains one of Portugal's highest dams and creates the vast reservoir that stretches far into the surrounding hills. We stopped to admire the views before continuing south along the N2. Shortly after crossing the dam, we encountered another road closure. The N2 was blocked and a large diversion sign directed traffic onto a narrow side road. At first, the route remained paved, but before long the tarmac gave way to an uphill dirt track. Initially, the surface seemed manageable. Unfortunately, that was about to change. I got my foot stuck. My foot is stuck. Oh, up. Fortunately, I wasn't injured. The bike wasn't so lucky. Amongst the damage sustained, the right footpeg assembly had snapped off completely. That left me wondering whether I was going to be able to finish the trip. The next day, with the bike still operational, I carefully rode south with only one usable footpeg. An online search had led me to a nearby welding specialist called Mr. Tig. Joao took one look at the broken footpeg bracket and agreed to see what could be done. After worrying that I might have to abandon the trip altogether, I was relieved to have found a possible solution. After some skilled TIG welding and repair work, the bike was back together. The N2 challenge was still alive. Back on the road, we reached the Geodesic Centre of Portugal. This monument marks the approximate geographical centre of mainland Portugal. Standing at the centre point felt like a fitting milestone on a route that crosses the entire country from north to south. After crossing the Tejo River, the landscape changed dramatically. The hills gradually gave way to flatter terrain and longer straight sections. This marked our transition from central Portugal into the wide open landscapes of the Alentejo. A short detour took us to one of Portugal's more unusual historic sites. The Chapel of São Denis was built around a prehistoric dolmen, blending Christian architecture with a monument thousands of years older. It was a brief stop, but one unlike any other along the route. The unseasonably hot weather was becoming a challenge in its own right, with afternoon temperatures climbing into the high 30s. Continuing south, we arrived at Montemor-o-Novo. The castle dominates the town and offers extensive views across the surrounding Alentejo landscape. It also provided a welcome opportunity to slow down and enjoy a little history before pressing onward. The following day we made a brief detour to Alcácer de Sal. What we expected to be a castle visit turned into something rather different. Instead, we found an archaeological museum preserving Roman remains and artifacts discovered beneath the site. Although unplanned, it proved to be an interesting glimpse into the area's long history. During the day, we learned that a former colleague was riding north through Portugal on his way to Norway. A hastily arranged detour allowed a brief meet-up in Beja before we continued in opposite directions. Before continuing south, we stopped briefly at Ervidel's distinctive fuel station, one of several historic stations that form part of the N2 heritage route. As we headed back towards the N2, we could see smoke rising in the distance. At first it was difficult to judge how far away the fires were, but with every kilometre the smoke became more obvious. A short time later, we discovered exactly what all the smoke was about. Wildfires had forced the GNR to close the road ahead. With no way through, we were forced off the N2 once again. What should have been a straightforward run south suddenly became our longest diversion of the trip. Eventually we rejoined the N2 and continued south. The N2 rewarded us with plenty of opportunities to lean the bikes through one corner after another. By this point we thought we had seen the last of the detours. We were wrong. As we climbed into the Algarve hills near Barranco de Velho, we encountered yet another road closure. For the second time that day, we were forced away from the N2 and onto an alternative route. By now, the N2 was making us work for every kilometre. After 3 days on the road, countless kilometres, several detours, a crash and an emergency repair, we finally reached Faro and the end of Portugal's legendary N2.
We're finished!
Standing beside the 738 kilometre marker, it was satisfying to know that we'd completed the route, despite everything the journey had thrown at us. But there was still one final challenge to consider. Thunderstorms were forecast across central Portugal for the following day. All was only a short ride from home, but I still had more than 500 kilometres ahead of me. Rather than spend a night in the Algarve and risk riding home through bad weather, I decided to keep going. By the time I finally arrived home, I had ridden 928 kilometres in a single day. For us, the N2 became much more than a road connecting north and south. Along the way, we discovered historic towns, impressive viewpoints, unexpected detours, emergency repairs, and challenges that we could never have anticipated when we set off from Chaves. The N2 fought back more than once, but in the end, we finished.